day succumbs, tables wait, the bar's got that swing. Glasses clink, hear the ice cubes sing. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. There's Troy laughing with his gin and a grin, telling stories about where he's been. Boomer's got whiskey, he's loosening his tie, chasing dreams under a midday sky. The bartender knows us, he's mixing with flair. Every sip's a moment we're happy to share. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. The clock don't matter, we're lost in the vibe. Jazz in the air, feel the soul come alive. From martinis to bourbon, we're riding the wave. Stealing this hour, it's the freedom we crave. The sun's still shining, but we're in our zone. This bar's our shelter, our temporary home. One more round before the world calls us back. Savor the moment, keep the blues in the rack. We'll laugh and we'll toast till the afternoon fades. Memories made in these liquid escapades. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun. Our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon. Chasing that jazz under the high noon.
Va salute, and welcome to the midweek point for Liquid Lunch, or for most people's work week. So glad you could be here. Let's get through it. Let me just top off a second. There we go. Let's get to it. First, in a rare first, Netter of Netters Network must not have been in a meeting when I posted the stream. She says that I am the love of her life, which is wonderful. Great coincidence, because she is, in fact, the love of mine. She says, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, become a member, gift a membership if you are feeling particularly generous. Yes, that would be a wonderful thing to do. I would greatly appreciate that. Big Al of Big Al Presents says, WTF Wednesday, Liquid Lunchers. Wonder what Troy has for us today. Have a great stream. My friend, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. As I always appreciate Jonathan Conroy, who says, hail all, smash the like button and enjoy the show. Yes, please do those things. Those things make all of this happen. Let me adjust this slightly. My lighting is just a little bit off. Still not quite figuring out the correct balance. You see what happens there? The backlighting tends to flare up because a lot of black and dark colors here. So these kind of flare up. I might have to mess around with my camera lighting and see if that is the problem. I'll work on it. It's a work in progress. Anyway, Yeah, let's go ahead and get to it. Looks like we got a pretty light group today, so make sure you share out the stream. Doesn't seem like we're getting the eyes in here. But let's go ahead and get to the first thing that causes me to go WTF. Just a reminder, this Friday, my current plan for the topic for last call is the pros and the cons, the wins and the losses in the culture war. Is the side light on? That might be causing it. All my lights are on. Yes, everything is on. And if I turn it off, what happens if I turn it off? Yeah, that makes it even worse. Maybe it doesn't. See, yeah, but this one over here gets completely washed out. So I don't think there's really a good option here for me. So, and I've got the one hitting me here, subdued. If I hold up some white, that seems to change things. So I don't know. Maybe I need to lighten what I'm wearing, wear a lighter shirt or something. Don't know. And I'm not going to focus on it too much because we got some things to get to today. Anyway, want to look at the wins and the losses in the culture war. And just when I feel like we're starting to get some progress, we end up with one like this. Let's bring this up. Share my screen, the entire screen. You don't need the sound. So Greta Gerwig's Narnia editor hints they're disregarding the source material. In other words, they're not making a Narnia film. They are making a Greta Gerwig film. Let me be very clear. I've said this before and I'll say it again. When they say, we're ignoring the source material, we're going to make it our own. Well, if you're making it your own, it's not the other thing. It can't be both. Okay? You're stealing the name and characters and you are creating your own thing. There is a reason for this, a very, very serious reason. And it's not just deconstructionism. It's not just pushing, it is partly pushing a message. And it's not just people who don't have who are creatively bankrupt, who can't create their own stuff. They have to steal from someone else. That is also true, but that is not the primary purpose. Don't normally get super overly hyper political, but the true reason behind this is very political. If you look very closely at the rise of Maoism and the Great Leap Forward and the Color Revolution, right? They were very clear and specific. Even if you look at Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, how do you overthrow a government? How do you institute communism, right? One of the necessary steps is to undermine everything and replace it with your own. Pop culture is culture, right? So if you want to alter the culture, you have to corrupt it and replace it with your own thing. Look over in Minneapolis at what they were doing when they had a bunch of people that put up a bunch of barricades in the middle of a square, and they were saying, ignore the street lights, pay attention to us. We'll control the traffic because we want to control who's coming in and out of our town. There's no need for that. That doesn't help anything. All they're really doing is they are subverting the local government. Ignore the street signs and the street lights. Pay attention to us. We're in control now. And the longer that's left there, the more they are legitimized, and the town actual municipal government is delegitimized. Now, luckily, they finally did something about it. They sent in the police, broke that up, sent them all home. We need to do the same thing with these kinds of cultural vandals. Let's get into it. Andrew Weisbaum, an editor associated with the upcoming Netflix Chronicles of Narnia, The Magician's Nephew adaptation, has said he is not referring to original source material on a film whose source material is very well known. Although he never mentions Narnia specifically, fans have already connected the dots, and this is the most well-known property Weisbaum is working on at the moment. Andrew Weisbaum, who has been reported to be working on the post-production team for the Narnia film, described the general approach to book adaptations in a recent interview about the different movie, about a different movie, excuse me. The report was published on a film news website. Weisbaum, best known for his work on the films including The French Dispatch and The Whale, spoke about another adaptation, Caught Stealing, during an interview on the Art of the Cut series. In that conversation, he said he did not use the source material for Caught Stealing. He then mentioned another well-known property he's working on, noting that he also would not be using source material for that as well, considering the lasting impact the Narnia series has had for generations. It's not hard to connect the dots. I did not read Caught Stealing. I thought about it and decided the film is not being made exclusively for people who are aficionados of the book, and I want the story to be clear for the people who love the book or people who don't. If you tell the story, it will be clear. The story stands on its own. You don't have to spoon feed it to people, right? If you're starting with a sequel where a previous book was necessary to understand it, maybe you need to do the previous book. But if that's not the case, then understand storytelling and tell the story. Just saying. I needed to keep my objectivity as much as possible in reading the script and in communicating what needed to be communicated in the film, not subconsciously rely on information that I had from the book and maybe wasn't being conveyed in the movie, if that makes sense. Okay. Now, if I give him the most generous interpretation of what I'm saying, I can understand that, right? If you are, for example, if you are telling the story of Lord of the Rings and you know the story intimately and you're reading the script and everything looks good to you, but there is some element that is weak or not really covered or not shown in the script, but you know it in your head, so you gloss over that, that would be bad. So I understand that, but he's not saying that. He is saying it, but it's incomplete. If he said something like, I trust the director to be faithful to the original so that I can be objective and say, I don't understand the story. Then the director could say, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. We weren't clear about this setup point that is in the story that is glossed over in the script. We need to fix that. That's not what he's saying, though. And do you think Greta Gerwig is a big fan of Narnia and knows those stories? I don't think so. It's funny. I worked on a bunch of projects that are based on source materials, some more well-known than others. And right now I'm working on a film that's very well, the source material is very well known. Once again, I'm choosing not to refer back to the material because we're doing our own take on it. We did our own take on that. So how did Caught Stealing do? Did it do well at the box office? And what did fans of Caught Stealing, the book, say? How did they feel about it? Just curious about that. I think that's been true pretty much every time, not to treat any material, even the script, as sacrosanct, because you have to listen to the movie, listen to the footage, listen to the performance, and be open to rewrites and rethink things that aren't 100% what they need to be. I would agree with that, except you need some basis. You need something to be sacrosanct. You need there to be a guideline. Otherwise, you're just making up a brand new movie, right? It is the difference between an adaptation and a completely different project. And this is completely different. So the upcoming adaptation, right? The Netflix Narnia adaptation is being directed by Barbie director Greta Gerwig for Netflix. Reports indicate that production wrapped in early 2026 at studios in the United Kingdom, with post-productions now underway. The film is based on The Magician's Nephew, a novel by C.S. Lewis, and the first chronicle entry in the Chronicles of Narnia series. It will hit theaters on November 26th, 2026, and stream on Netflix on December 25th. So, in other words, it gets a 4-week theatrical release. So at least we will see. Thank you, Big Al. Caught Stealing had a budget of 40 to 65, box office of 32.5 million. That's a loss, even without taking into account, cinema, cinema value. You always cut that budget. You always cut the box office in half, because the theaters keep half of that. So that's about what? Let's say 17 million. No, not even. That's about 14 million. Holy crap. That's terrible. On a $40 million budget. And that's not taking into account marketing. Holy crap. Audiences polled gave it an average score of B. That tells us of people that saw it what they thought. Doesn't really tell us what fans of Caught Stealing, such that there are. I've never heard of this book before, so I don't know how many fans there are out there to begin with. So that's probably a bad example when you're looking at fans of a franchise. But I think if you think about Narnia, if you think about Lord of the Rings, if you think about, any of our favorite franchises, Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, you have a huge built-in fan base. And they'll be very vocal about their like or dislike of a project. Yeah. So there we go. So we got a 1 month, we've got a 1 month window that we will see how it does in the theaters. And then once it leaves theaters, remember, Netflix really can argue and claim that they're getting a lot of views on it on Netflix, but that does not translate to increased income. There is no increased income. Once it goes to streaming, they're giving it away for free to their subscribers. Their subscribers, they already have their hands in their subscribers' pockets. They're not getting more money out because they bring a new movie onto the platform. And before you say, well, if people really like it, they'll go subscribe to Netflix. No, they won't. They're at saturation. All the streaming services are pretty much at saturation. They are not seeing large numbers influx of memberships because people want to see, oh, that movie that just went to streaming. I want to subscribe so that I can see that. That's not happening. That's what the company will argue. That's BS. That's BS marketing lies. Casting reports and rumors suggest Emma McKay will play Jadis, the White Witch. Carey Mulligan will portray Mabel Kirk. Daniel Craig will take on Uncle Andrews, and Meryl Streep is heavily rumored to voice a gender swapped Aslan. If you know, you know. This is subversion to the point of blasphemy. Just saying. Netflix has not released an official Narnia cast list confirming all of these names, and some reports remain unverified. By the way, let me go back to that last point. If, in fact, Meryl Streep is doing the voice of Aslan, and you know what C.S. Lewis was creating when he created Narnia, and you consider yourself a Christian, you have no business supporting this. I'm just saying it. As a Christian, I am telling you, brothers and sisters, if you support this, you're being blasphemous. You're literally giving money to people being blasphemous to Christ. And I don't care if you see it for free and you talk about it on your channel because, I saw it so you don't have to. Don't give it. Don't. Just don't. You don't need to put that in front of your eyes. You don't need to see what was on the Hunter Biden laptop and expose yourself to that and diminish your spirit to tell people how bad it was. Okay? Netflix has not released an official Narnia cast list confirming all of these names, and some reports remain unverified. The question now becomes, how closely did the writers stick to the source material? Given that Meryl Streep may voice Aslan, a male lion, and Christ allegory, fidelity does not seem to be a high priority. At this stage, release plans for the Narnia film remain unchanged, and further statements from Netflix of the production team may clarify how closely the final movie mirrors its literary source. Let me make another suggestion. Instead of seeing this movie, go read the Screw Tape letters. Go read the Screw Tape letters. That is a much better philosophical endeavor for your mind. Understand the methodology of evil and how it corrupts you and how it gets its foot in the door by piquing your curiosity. This movie is going to be a train wreck. I want to see how bad a train wreck it is. That's how the devil works. And then you start and you're like, maybe this isn't so bad. It was entertaining. And that's how you invite him in. That's how you invite him in. Some fans have already expressed their, and honestly, going back to what I was talking about, the Color Revolution, it's the same thing. It's how they get their foot in the door and take over your country. You let them in. This isn't so bad. Oh, they just want equal rights. Oh, they've been oppressed. I feel bad for them. Next thing you know, you're in a gulag and they're running things. Some fans have already expressed their concern with the direction of the upcoming Narnia remake, with prior rumors pointing to Meryl Streep as the voice of Aslan, the Christ figure of C.S. Lewis's series. Many fans are already concerned of how the series may stray from the heart of Lewis's narrative and message. And I am not going to give any corner or succor to Meryl Streep if she takes this role. She knows what this role is. She knows what it means. If she is willing to take this role, and you can't tell me Meryl Streep needs to work. You can't tell me that. If anyone has achieved a level of success in Hollywood that they can choose their roles, she has. So she is complicit in the blasphemy if she decides to take that. Just saying. If the rumor is true, a female playing Aslan could be comparable to Cynthia Erivo's portrayal of Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar. I won't even say anything else about that, except this time, instead of having a female play an already controversial depiction of the central figure of Christianity, this will be a female in one of the most beloved works of Christian literature of the last century. For those hoping for a faithful rendition of C.S. Lewis's beloved series, it's not looking great. Absolutely true. Let me see what you guys are saying here real quick. I got to back up a little bit. Another IP being shanghaied for virtue signaling by the usual suspects. I would argue it's even more than virtue signaling at this point. They use virtue signaling as their excuse. But again, this is a cultural revolution. They are trying to deconstruct our the pillars of our faith. They are trying to deconstruct our government, and they are trying to take over with their atheist, propagandist communism. Is what they're trying to do. Stanley had a slightly different approach to continuing stories, especially in comic books. Oh, you mean Stan Lee? Yeah, that was probably voice to text. Stan Lee had a slightly different approach to continuing stories, especially in comic books. His motto was every comic is someone's first, so he would give some sort of context depending on how important the continuing plot point was. Speaking more generally to the Silver and Bronze Age of comics, editors used to do something where they'd put an editor's note, where if there was a reference to a previous comic or even a classic comic, there would be a little note, little asterisk that said this was the events from last month's issue, or as established in issue number such and such of such and such title. That did two things. One, it brought you up to speed very quickly so that you could move along, and it might get you to go and buy back issues, to bulk up your collection. That's never a bad thing, right? And if a particular issue is selling out, they might do another reprint of it, and that means more money for the company, right? So yeah, it's all in the storytelling. How do you communicate something that happened before? Sometimes it's Doctor Who used to do this. The whole purpose for the companion was exactly that. The companion was new, the Doctor was old. The Doctor had all this history, and the companion would turn over every so often to play the role of the audience. And when the Doctor would talk about the Sultarans for the first time to that companion, who are the Sultarans? And then he would drop a few lines to kind of fill her in, thereby filling in the audience. The people that had been around a while, like, yep, I remember that. And the ones that hadn't were all caught up, It's just good storytelling. Let's see. A couple years ago, I finally got to see the third Chronicles of Narnia movie. Famous reputation. I expected it to be kind of me, but I was genuinely surprised. I might even like it better than the second one. Interesting. But again, if you like the books, if you like the movies, you'll probably love the books. I've been finding that with very few exceptions, if I see a movie about books, then I go read the books. The only one where I was like, I could go either way was the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films, because he did such a good job. And the stuff that was left out was stuff that I was like, I'm sorry, guys, Tom Bombadil, it's not that crucial when you really get down to it, and I can say that because I've read the books and I've seen the movies. you know. So many adaptations are so different, they're not even the same, so you can't even compare. And in a few cases, most of which are Stephen King adaptations, I would say the movie was actually better than the book. The Shining is a great example. The Shining is a masterpiece, better than the book. I'd have to think there might be others, but by the same token, there are much more bad interpretations of Stephen King. There were elements of Pet Sematary that I thought were spot on, but overall, it pales by comparison to the book. The book is a much better telling, and the ending is ruined in the movie. So, adaptations. Hail chat, just got out of a doctor's appointment. Catch up after beginning of stream afterwards. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, by all means. That's one of the benefits of a live stream like this. You can always go back and watch from the beginning. I hope everything went well at the doctor's. Second one is, now that I think about it, editor's notes kind of work the same way as footnotes do in classic literature. Sure. Ah, there you go. Thank you so much. You didn't have to do that, but I certainly appreciate the $2 super chat. There you go. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to be. Oh, good, all good. I'm glad to hear that. I really am. I really do care about my audience, their health, and what's going on in their lives. You guys really are important to me. I mean, let's face it. You're a big part of my day, right? Every day I spend at least an hour with you, sometimes 2 or more, throughout the day. So you guys are going to be pretty important to me. So yeah, that is cultural vandalism in a nutshell. Why they do it and why you absolutely must fight against it. Let's see, what else have I got up here? This one, I don't know how much of a WTF this is. I didn't see it coming, but I'm in the minority. I guess a lot of people that are following this were more keyed in than I was. Going back to a topic that we keep returning to, because it's important to the entire industry and to all of us who care about, if nothing else, the properties of Warner Brothers. Paramount sweetens the hostile takeover bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. Warner Brothers Discovery Board agrees to review the offer. That's interesting, because they were saying they wouldn't before, and now they're going, let's take a look at this. I think, and again, we'll get into the article. I don't want to get too ahead of it, but if I'm going to speculate, I'm going to say that when things are close to even, they're going to listen to Bob Chapek, jeez, to Zaslav. But when they start seeing all the pushback against the Netflix, deal, and the going in front of Congress and all of this kind of stuff, and the questioning that's being, and they start, I think the shareholders start looking and going, maybe this isn't going to be as smooth as we want. And then Paramount turns around and sweetens the deal. Maybe we should really look at this, So let's take a look at this. By the way, Marvin Montanaro is doing great work over there at that Park Place. He is really, really good people. He's another one of the people I'm really looking forward to seeing again in person in Florida when I go down. The high-stakes media consolidation battle surrounding Warner Brothers Discovery took another dramatic turn this week as Paramount Skydance formally upgraded the financial terms of its hostile takeover bid, escalating pressure on Warner Brothers Discovery leadership as it weighs competing offers from Paramount and Netflix. Paramount's revised proposal introduces significant new financial incentives aimed directly at Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders, including a quarterly cash ticket fee designed to compensate investors if regulatory or transactional delays push the deal time further out. That's interesting because that's a situation that we talked about. Any deal that's going to have to go through regulatory review means a holdup of the deal, which means it's going to be a while before you get your money. And time is money. Time is money. That has always been true. It always will be true. As long as someone else has your money, you can't do anything with it. Even if it's potential money, you can't have it to invest it, to be building it elsewhere, which investors are doing, right? And so the argument was that Netflix, you go with Netflix, the regulatory holdup is going to be years. And Netflix counter was, well, you guys are going to have your own regulatory problems too. It's not like it's going to be overnight. So the counter is, well, you know what? We'll foot the bill until the regulatory goes through. Kind of what they're saying. So high stakes. Oh yeah. Under the amended structure, Paramount would pay Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders an additional 25 cents per share, equivalent to roughly $650 million in aggregate cash value for every quarter the transaction remains unclosed beyond December 31st, 2026. That's actually a nice hedge. The provision is intended to demonstrate confidence in Paramount's ability to close the deal while offsetting investor risk tied to prolonged regulatory review. Not only that, something else it says is they have a high degree of faith that if they are successful in a merger, they can help Warner Brothers to be more profitable in the future, to make that extra 25 cents per share worthwhile. We expect you to receive more than that with this deal. So let's start by priming the pump, so to speak. Beyond the quarterly ticketing fee, Paramount's upgrade bid includes several new financial protections and sweeteners. Paramount has pledged to cover the $2.8 billion breakup fee tied to Warner Brothers Discovery's existing merger agreement with Netflix, should shareholders approve Paramount's offer instead. The company also committed to neutralize approximately $1.5 billion in potential financial costs connected with Warner Brothers Discovery's debt exchange obligation. Paramount further stated it would fully backstop financial structures and reimbursement shareholders for certain transaction-related liabilities if regulators were to block the acquisition. That's really putting their money where their mouth is. That really is saying we are willing to take on the lion's share of the burden of risk here. That's a pretty darn good deal when you get down to it. Taken together, the enhancement represents billions in additional financial guarantees layered onto Paramount's original all-cash bid, which values Warner Brothers Discovery shares at $30 per share, notably higher than Netflix's previously agreed upon $27.75 per share acquisition framework. The hostile bid is unfolding against the backdrop of Netflix's existing agreements to acquire key Warner Brothers Discovery studio assets, including film and television productions, divisions, and the HBO Max streaming platform. Paramount has positioned its rival offer as both financially superior and more viable from a regulatory standpoint, arguing that Netflix Warner Brothers combination could raise antitrust concerns tied to streaming marketing concentrations. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. That regulatory framing has become a central battleground in the takeover fight, with both sides lobbying shareholders and regulators while attempting to shape public and investor perception for long-term industry competition. In response to Paramount's revised tender offer, Warner Brothers Discovery confirms that its board will formally evaluate the updated proposal, but emphasizes that no recommendation changes have been made at this stage. Understandably, take it slow, think it through. In an official statement, the company said the board consistent with the fiduciary duties and its consultation with its independent financial and legal advisors, will carefully review and consider Paramount Skydance's offer in accordance with the terms of Warner Brothers Discovery's agreement with Netflix Incorporated. Despite agreeing to conduct a review, Warner Brothers Discovery made clear that its standing support for the Netflix merger remains intact, at least for now. In other words, Zaslav wants it, so that's the official statement. But if enough of the board turns against him, we'll see what actually happens. That's my interpretation of that. The company added that the board is not modifying its recommendation with respect to the Netflix merger agreement. Warner Brothers Discovery will review the amended tender offer and advise its shareholders of the board's recommendation after the completion of that review. The language signals a procedural evaluation rather than a strategic pivot, illustrating that Paramount still faces an uphill battle in convincing leadership to abandon the Netflix deal. That is true. Warner Brothers Discovery also issued guidance directly to investors urging restraint while the review process unfolds. According to the statement, shareholders are advised not to take any action at this time with respect to the amended Paramount Skydance tender offer. There's nothing that says that someone who owns stock in Warner Brothers couldn't sell it to Paramount individually as they so choose, because it's theirs to sell and trade as they wish. You don't have to take the advisement of the Warner Brothers Discovery board or Zaslav. Just saying. While Warner Brothers Discovery has rejected Paramount's advances multiple times in prior months, the enhanced financial terms materially increases pressure on the board to demonstrate it has fully evaluated shareholder value implications. Yeah, it gets really hard when there becomes a larger and larger discrepancy. Why are you ignoring this much money and this much value for the shareholders? Maybe we need to start, looking into if you are actually upholding your fiduciary responsibilities, or if you got some insider deals going on that would not be entirely above board. Because Paramount's offer is structured in an all-cash bid and now includes layered financial protections, fiduciary duty standards require directors to assess whether the revised proposal could constitute a superior offer under merger law. It almost certainly does. I'd have to look at it a lot closer, but I'd be hard-pressed to find a way that it wouldn't. Failure to do so could expose the board to shareholder litigation, particularly if investors believe the Netflix deal undervalues the company relative to Paramount's bid. And the regulatory clock is ticking. Another factor shaping the timeline is Warner Brothers Discovery's broader corporate restructuring strategy. The company is currently planning a major linear network spin-off, often referred to internally as Discovery Global, which would separate legacy cable holdings such as CNN, TNT, TBS, Food Network, and HGTV from the core studio and streaming business. How valuable are cable channels at this point? I'm really asking that. I really don't know. The transactions is expected to close in 2026, meaning the outcome of the Paramount versus Netflix bidding war could reshape not only ownership of Warner Brothers entertainment assets, but also the structure of the post-spin media landscape. So what happens next? For now, the process enters the formal review phase. Key upcoming pressure points include Warner Brother Discovery's shareholder vote tied to the Netflix agreement, regulatory review milestones for both competing deals, potential counteroffers or further financial escalations, board recommendation updates following advisory consultations, specifically the ones we just talked about. Until next review concludes, Warner Brother Discovery leadership appears intent on maintaining procedural neutrality, acknowledging Paramount's enhanced bid without signaling any shift in strategic alignment. That's wise. You keep your cards close to the vest. But the billions in added incentives now on the table, the takeover battle between Paramount and Netflix for Warner Brothers Discovery is entering its most consequential phase yet. Yeah. So let's get back to what you guys are saying about this. Like I said, when Netflix CEO admitted it that they would, like I said, when the Netflix CEO admitted it that they would have to go into debt for this deal from the Netflix shareholders, should have said, wait a minute, no way. Yeah, you got a great point there. And if I didn't say hi to you earlier, Nate, welcome. Glad to see you here. Going back to the Tolkien thing, Samuel Proctor says Tolkien was writing in a different standard than 21st century writing rules, where absolutely everything needs to be relevant to the plot and characters. Yes, that's true. But even in its day, I think a lot of readers were like, why am I supposed to care about Tom Bombadil? Right? And you would be hard pressed to find the only people, honestly, that I've ever run into that go, oh, I just love Tom Bombadil, are just, they love everything about it, and they just want more. They just want more. So you just throw anything in there and under Tolkien's notes, and as long as Tolkien wrote it and published it in his book, they're going to love it, without being objective. But I hear you. And that's really by no means what I'm talking about. Those kinds of things, when you're adapting, there also are the rules of adapting mediums, right? If you're adapting a book to a 2.5 hour, even 3 hour movie, you gotta lean it up, right? Sometimes you do things like you make composite characters. If you already are showing something, you don't have to include the dialogue that tells it, and so forth. So you can economize your storytelling, but you still have to tell the same story. You still have to be true to that story, which modern adapters aren't doing. Sometimes old Anglo-Saxon stories would take those detours That's more in the background and setting the scene and mood and giving out lore, and of course family trees. Yeah, which even in modern storytelling has its place. And in a way, Tolkien kind of did this too with his notes, the Silmarillion, a lot of that kind of stuff was all the and nowadays with modern wikis and technical manuals and chronologies and stuff, we still do all of that. So there is still a place for that. Right, we had gotten to that. What if David Zaslav had no real intention of selling to Netflix, only using Netflix to make Paramount sweeten the deal? If that were true, I would have a greater respect for David Zaslav as a businessman. But I see nothing to indicate that he is that intelligent. I'll just say it that way. It would be great if that was true. That would be very smart if that was true. I don't think he's that smart. I think that David Zaslav is much stronger than people are giving credit for. He knows Paramount wants the Warner Brothers bad, seeing how far they're willing to go to get it. Again, I agree that that is what someone in his position should be doing. But like the article talked about the ticking time, the time is ticking very specifically for him. He's got a personal goal that goes beyond the larger business goal. And he will sell out everybody for his payday. So that's why I'm not prepared to give him that much credit for this right here. HDTV, now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. That's my point. That's why I speculate. Are cable companies do they even hold any financial value anymore? I'm not even sure. And welcome, Outlaw Bill. Good to see you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. We are kind of coming to the end of our time together, but that doesn't mean that you can't just kind of rewind and watch the whole stream from the beginning to see what I was ranting about, what I was WTFing about today on Wednesday. I didn't do promos today, mostly because I haven't updated them since last night. But also because I might want to restructure how I do the promos. Thinking that through. If I had done promos at the midpoint of the show, that would have been the true midpoint of the week. Middle of the lunchtime is the exact middle of the week. But we are now past the midpoint. We are now into the close of Wednesday, and therefore the beginning of the close of the week, heading towards the weekend. Yay, thank God for Friday, right? I'm looking forward to it. What we talked about here today, we're going to be talking about more on Friday. I think it's important that we start talking about the culture war that started most of the channels that you watch right now. Get back to our roots. Even my grandparents had switched to streaming, though they do still get newspapers. Yeah, I understand that. It's gotten very expensive to subscribe to a news outlet. I think people would prefer to get their news in. For years, we got it on commercial television, right? And you paid a dime, a buck, whatever for a newspaper. If you had cable, you had, cable news. It was relatively free to you. To pay a premium price to read a rag that you can't even trust anymore, people don't seem to be willing to do. And if you want really good news, yes, I could turn this into, you should be listening to, my contemporaries here on YouTube. The alternative media is much better. yes, that's true. But what I'm really talking about is really good premium news services. I'm going to hold up not a sponsored spot, but the Epoch Times. Yes, very conservative leaning. They're not, they don't hide that, but truly conservative, not like, rhino conservative like Fox. They're they're bringing up news articles that no one else is talking about, especially in terms of things like health. They just did an update on that chemical fire and spill, the train derailment in Ohio. When was the last time anyone talked about that? But the problem is, it's kind of costly. I can't really justify the cost. And one of their options is to have a newspaper delivered to your house. That's very tempting just because I'm just that kind of an old-fashioned kind of guy, but don't know. I think he's playing corporate chicken. He's waiting till the very last minute to see how sweet the deal gets before he blinks. That's a very dangerous game for him, because if the board turns against him, he could be left holding an empty sack, and he could run into a decision to go. Look at the deal that Paramount just offered. Hey, we'll foot the bill for as long as it takes if you come with us. So the regulatory timeline won't matter to you in your dividend check. Well, it matters to David Zaslav, because he needs the deal to be closed ASAP. There is the possibility that it closes sooner because they're going with Paramount rather than Netflix. Don't know. All I watch are streaming channels and YouTube. I haven't watched commercial television in years. We cut the cable years ago. And to the extent that any cable channel shows are still watched in this house, it's really by Netter, and that's through Philo. She has a subscription. It's a nominal price for a monthly subscription to Philo. She gets all of those, basic cable shows that she liked. I'm not even sure how much she's even still watching it. Even those shows, people, we're kind of losing interest in. So, and there are so many other options out there now. I am just realizing, speaking of options, that I am running out of time here, and you have options of where you need to be. So let me wrap this up and say thank you again so much for giving me an hour of your day, taking your lunchtime to hang out with me, have a drink with me, and scratch the old noodle a little bit. I want you to all take care of yourselves. Watch out for your health. Stay hydrated. Drink responsibly. I don't know what else there is to watch tonight except maybe Doomcock. Go check him out tonight. Hopefully I have a D&D game tonight. And I will see all of you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Salute.
Goodbye. Hope to see you again real soon.
Here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun, our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon, chasing that jazz under the high noon.